They're a band that I...
What's happened? It's frozen.
No, it's me, so I'm just not moving. I was...
You're going to cut that or leave it in?
Yeah, I'll probably leave it in. In which this week we're going to discuss glam rock. And I'm going to read out my top 20 glam artists. And we're going to discuss them, see if we thought they were glam, or they were just one-off glam, or if we agree on where I placed them. And I've made no notes at all whatsoever, so this is going to be totally off the cuff and probably totally rubbish, but we'll give it a go. Here's my number 20 is Chicory Tip. I put them right at the bottom because I only ever really considered them to be sort of glam for one, maybe two singles. And they were, as someone once put in, I think it was Record Mirror or NME, like Brickies dressed as a glam artist. You know, they weren't exactly. I mean, I do remember that.
Unlike those great looking glitter band and etc. I mean, it's a bit of a nonsense comment.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, but you get what they're saying. There's the first single, the second one they had the silver suits on, like the superhero suits. But the first one, they were wearing like tank tops and flares, and they were just guys you see in the pub. But they were down singing. Was it Good Grief, Christina? That one, I can't remember. But good singles.
Yeah, they're all good. I mean, I don't really know much about Chicory Tip. I don't have many records by him.
Says the man who owns every Chicory Tip record on promo.
If you do recall, my criteria for the collection was what's the most rubbish collection I can do cheaply.
Well,
you know, I love Onions, songs like that.
Yeah.
They're definitely a band who were around for a few singles before Son of My Father, Giorgio Moroder and his writing partner just got them in to do the song, and they managed to get a couple of hits, three top 20 hits out of it.
But how glam do you consider them? In a
well, that's what I'm saying. They were glam for probably 2 records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the glamour meter, if you were going to give them a 1 to 10, what would you say? I'd give them about an 8.
Oh, I'll probably give them a 5.
Oh, there we go. See,
we've got different glamour meters.
Different glamour meters there. Yeah. Sorry.
This is very much like the Opportunity Knox Clapo meter.
Indeed, yeah. And mind you, some great stars from Opportunity Knox: Neil Reed, Mary Hopkins. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but there must have been some others.
There must have been. Well, not just pop soul, you know, Les Dawson, people like that.
Yeah,
came from it, didn't they? Was Charlie Williams on that? Was he, or?
I don't know. I only remember him on the Comedians. So I don't remember him on
I don't know.
My number 19. I debated about this, and I put him so low because it might really only be his first 1, maybe 2 singles that were glam. Alice Cooper. I mean, School's Out to me is it epitomises 72 glam and all the balloons on top of the box and everything. But he was never really a glam artist.
No, as you know, I made my own list.
Yeah.
But it would have been chaotic trying to talk about 2 lists. But he wasn't on my list. deliberately left him off it. I remember him massively at the time. I never remember thinking of him as glam back then, more sort of to a schoolboy, more sort of shock rock and upset your parents sort of thing. I don't think glam was ever about that.
No.
Was it really?
Sorry, I'm just trying to get myself. There we go. No.
I left him off another list, but I know there's an argument there because a lot of people do consider him as part of the glam movement, but he was around a long time before the glam movement. 68. Well, he's back in the earlier 60s. Where they got signed up by Frank Zappa. Weren't they initially? So he's around a long time before and still going now.
Oh, definitely.
So, but to the British glam movement, I don't think there's anything there. He's not part of it at all. Hence why I don't think they're on your list. The New York Dolls.
No, I put them on there. I actually made a little list of, what do you call it? Not also rans. What do they call it? Honourable mentions.
Yeah.
And I put things like Iron Virgin because they were always talked about in glam circles, and New York Dolls. But
New York Dolls were definitely glam.
Yeah.
But not really part of another UK glam scene.
No.
At all, which took on its own thing, which will come out while we go through this list.
My number 18, I wouldn't have included had it not been for a conversation I had with you. It's Showaddywaddy, and I wasn't going to include them because I've always seen them, apart from their first 3 singles, maybe 4, where they wrote themselves as just a basic 50s cover-up band. But as you pointed out, if you knock them out, you've got to knock Mud out. And Mud were definitely in the glam scene. And Hey Rock and Roll.
Hey Rock and Roll, if you'd not seen them or anything at the time, is classic glam, ain't it?
Yeah. I suppose it's very difficult to look back at our age and see their whole career, but it was just the very start that was glam. Then after that, they did become just. I mean, they made a great living out of it. I mean, they got number 1s and top 10 singles, but they were basically a 50s cover band. But that first, what was the one after Hey Rock and Roll? Rock and Roll Lady. That wasn't so great.
Yeah. But I'd never. All I'd done initially was hear that single. I didn't know who they were because I'd never watched New Faces. Didn't see them on there. So all I heard was the single before I'd seen them on Top of the Pops, and it sounded glam. The beating drums. It's very much that sort of beat.
You just hit the nail on the head. It's like the glitter band with the 2 drummers. I'm trying to think. Wizzard had 2 drummers. I mean, it's like the drum beat was such a part of glam. If you had the drum beat, you were virtually 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah.
My next one.
I imagine there's lots of people watching this, shouting at their iPads and computers, disagreeing with us.
Oh yeah, I'm really hoping that
hot topic.
Disagree.
I'm hoping there'll be some good comments.
I'd like to get some comments, especially on the top 2, because I think that would be a bit controversial. But the next one, again, all these bottom bands are bands that, I mean, this band, Hello, they're still going. They had loads of singles after, but Tell Him was a real sort of glam stomping thing. New York Groove. But after that, I can't think of anything they did. Can you? No. Was it you or Pete who used to do the good impression? It was Pete, weren't it? It was Pete, yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Well, as I have my drink, I will wish, because he's apparently recovering really well now, so good health to Bob Bradbury, because apparently he's been out of hospital now for 3 months and he's getting himself back and is planning on going on the road soon. So
cool. Well, I didn't know that, but Tell Him, of course, was the old Billy Davis song, and our American friends, if there's any American friends watching this, will know what's the other Hello song?
New York Groove.
Yeah, New York Groove. I know that from Ace Frehley, who had the bigger American hit with that.
I seem to vaguely remember owning a single by Hello on demo called Schoolboy Love, or it's School something or other, but it wasn't a hit. But
that must be worth a bomb. Yeah. On Bell, a demo.
Worth a fortune. I've still got it here somewhere. That's the other thing I was going to say. Normally, in one of our videos, especially to the vinyl community, we'd be expected to hold up the records like we normally do. I believe that you've got records by every one of these acts, and I've got records by 80% of them, but I couldn't tell you where any of them are. I mean, I've got records in boxes there, in the bedroom, in the cupboard.
I can, if I was able, I could go straight there and pull each individual record out, but they're not here, so I can't do it.
Yeah, I could to prepare for this show. It would have taken me about 3 months to go through all the records, so hence why no records have been pulled. But if anyone wants me to just hold up a random ABBA album, I can do that. That's
cool. I'll take it they aren't on your list.
They're not, in fact. I don't think. No.
All those coloured suits in 1974 and
arguably Waterloo could have been considered. I never thought of that. Could have redo my list now.
Surprised you missed that.
Well, I mean, I collect ABBA, but I've never considered them glam. I've always considered them pop. But
yourself at the start, it might just be for one record.
Yeah.
And the clothing was certainly trying to be glam.
I mean, one thing I think I've discovered about ABBA collecting them is that they were like magpies. They pulled it. There's one song they did on The Visitors, which I was playing in the car, and the way that they're singing and breathing and sort of taking a deep breath in between each line, it sounds so Bee Gees. And there's another one where they've got all these sort of strings going, obviously on the keyboards, but all these strings going, it sounds really Philly. And they basically were like magpies. They took things from what going around them and they mixed them in this hodgepodge and come up with...
There's some argument about the Beatles and bands like that. David Bowie, particularly.
Oh, yeah.
He was the ultimate magpie.
Oh, definitely. But, Waterloo is. I mean, they're not on my list, but honorary mention to Waterloo. My next one's definitely glam, or was when he started off. Well, no, not when he started off. When he started off, he was producing Uriah Heep, but Barry Blue.
He's in Uriah Heep, weren't he?
Was he in Uriah Heep?
No, he was in a band with David Byron before
right.
Uriah Heep started. Yeah, that was it.
Right. But, what was it? Completely Dancing on a Saturday Night, Miss Hit and Run, School Love, kind of show my knowledge of Barry Blue singles now, and I can't think of any anymore. But, the Sparks.
Barry Green,
yeah.
Barry Green was when he was working with David Bryan. What about, is she on your honourable mentions? Lindsay DePaul, who was integral to all of these songs.
She isn't, only because, although she was integral in writing all these songs, I really like Lindsay DePaul. I've got 3 of her albums, but you're
the one who bought them.
I'm the one who brought them,
yeah.
In fact, I mistakenly brought 2 of one.
It's all right. I don't need any.
I've always considered her to be a pop artist. I mean, I would never group her into glam rock. I mean, she wrote these songs, but as the actual artist, I'd always say, like, I mean, Barry Blue had the sparkly. I mean, Gary Glitter, everyone said that Alvin Stardust was a knockoff Gary Glitter sort of thing, right? And I suppose you could say Barry Blue is a knockoff Alvin Stardust. They all sort of bounce along the line, and something's a hit and everyone else tries it. ABBA were a hit, and suddenly you get, Brotherhood of Man popping up doing the same format.
Excuse me?
I know Brotherhood of Man were around a long time before ABBA, but the format of two blokes and the two girls in the middle singing suddenly became very prominent in Brotherhood of Man when after ABBA, and they had a great success with it. They had at least 2 number ones, didn't they?
Yeah. I just think United we stand.
Yeah, but I mean that was all session people, wasn't it?
Well, weren't the later Brotherhood of Man session singers?
Well, they might have started off that way, but they became Brotherhood of Man. They're still going now. They were on YouTube. I was watching an interview about 6 months ago with the one with the moustache and the blonde one that is his wife, and they were talking about how they can't go on stage without having to do the Save Your Kisses for Me dance, and they put their thumbs down there. I mean, they're a band now, but they may have started off as session men. Number 15, a band that my son Dominic finds hilarious, Kenny. I used to like Kenny. I
know you did. You and Pete used to love them.
Yeah. Like this.
What's that? Careful with that axe, it's cosmic, or
yeah. That's the B side of Baby I Love You Okay, I think. But there's a really weak guitar solo that sounds like it's terrible, and it suddenly screams out.
Going round Pizza Meet You Two, and it had a really expensive top of the range quadraphonic Bang & Olufsen, and you had Kenny blaring out of it.
Yeah. What else would you want blaring out of a quadraphonic Bang & Olufsen, not Kenny? I remember. I don't know if I should say this on my. I remember. Not. I remember. I can always cut it. I can remember buying Baby I Love You Okay, and a certain young lady coming round, and we'd been going out about 6 months, and I thought it might be time to say that magic 3 words to her, but I didn't know the bottle, so I put on Baby I Love You Okay about 20 times in a row, and she never got the bloody message. She just thought I just loved the single and asked me why I kept playing it. I gave up in the end and just said.
Didn't you sing it to her? Didn't you word it to her at the time?
I can't remember. I must admit, I used to sing everything. I mean, I remember sitting at a party.
These are all good scenes for that TV play we're going to do one day.
Yeah.
No, although it's probably been done. What was that one that Noddy Holder?
Oh, the
Grimleys. That's probably been done, I suppose.
Not as a band. That was about a school and one bloke, wasn't it? Not so.
It's all around band time and stuff going on. Yeah, I still think it's still be a good story.
I remember sitting at a party over at the Suttons. At the 3 they had, I think it was the second one, and everyone had gone home apart from us because we were always the last to sit around. And we were sitting on the floor underneath the bay window, and there was I think it was a Philly Soul record came on, but I didn't know the words. I remember you sarcastically saying to me, I'd laughed a bloody record you don't know the lyrics to, because apparently I was always walking around singing along to everything. But I didn't know the lyrics to that one, but I did know the lyrics to Baby I Love You Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to remember that chorus, isn't it?
I'm going back to Kenny. I never really liked the bump. I thought the bump was crap, but I thought the rest of the single was all right. I'm trying to think of some.
Of course, they came from the other Kenny. It's the same name.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Because they had the song for Bump, and they had the name. because the previous Kenny had now gone, or did he record a version of the bump?
I don't know. I'm desperately racking my brain now to think of what his single was. I can I can hear it in my head, but I can't think of the title of it. It was really high vocal, wasn't it? I think I have to look on that one later. But yeah, he was an Irish boy, wasn't he?
You can put the name across.
Yeah, I'll put the name
across the screen, can't you?
Right, moving on from Kenny, it's to flat-capped heroes, the Rubettes. Again, they're a band that I...
What's happened? It's frozen.
No, it's me, so I'm just not moving. I was...
You're going to cut that or leave it in?
Yeah, I'll probably leave it in. I was just sitting there suddenly debating in my head, why did I put the Rubettes in? Because to me, glam was 72 to 74, and by 74 it was petering out, and the Rubettes started in 74, so I don't know if
they just made... That's why they're low down on your chart.
Obviously. Yeah, I suppose they were glam. I'm just... Sugar Baby Love, yeah. Again, they're another one that went like Jukebox Jive. I mean, it seemed to be very popular in the mid-70s for pop bands to go into sort of like 50s type songs.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really Sugar Baby Love, was it? That's trying to do a reworking of the old doo-wop songs from the 50s. But I think they're ones who hanging on the shirt tails of glam weren't really glam in any question, were they? Apart from the plastic sort of rock and roll sort of look.
You're right there. Really. Unfortunately, I sorted out my records yesterday and I put a load in the cupboard that was sitting around. And if I hadn't have done that, I'd have had a Rubettes album to hand to hold up so I can hold the record up. But I don't. Anyway, what are we looking at?
Heart of Stone.
Oh, Heart of Stone, yeah. By the way, for anyone that's lost the thread of the conversation, that was Kenny's single. After the Rubettes, we now go into one that was definitely glam, Sparls.
Rubettes, yeah, I've got all of their top 20 hits up to 79. Well,
Baby, I Know, that was terrible.
And all the Kennys. I just noticed Julianne. Other great songs.
Great song, yeah. What's I forgot what the other one was. No, forget it. Anyway, Sparks. When do you think Sparks stopped being glam?
Fancy Pants.
That's it, yeah. That's the one that kills Dominic, because I had that framed record mirror up in the toilet, and it had a picture of Kenny on the front wearing the fancy pants, those like Kellogg's trousers, and he thought that they were hilarious and had to listen to the bump. But Sparks, This Town, Amateur Hour,
Never Turn Your Back.
I'm trying to think of when they stopped being glam and became pop. I Want to Hold Your Hand wasn't really glam, was it? Wasn't any good either.
No. That came out around the same time.
No, looks.
Did it come out as same time as Snookeroo?
Yeah.
Seem to remember you bought it in No Gunnersbury.
Yeah.
And I bought Snookeroo.
Snookeroo's a great single. Have you heard Elton's demo of that?
No.
It's on YouTube. It's very much like Ringo's version, except it's Elton singing it, but it's a good song. I think looks is quite glam, but they weren't dressed by glam by that time. They were dressed in like shirts and jackets and with massive wing collars and everything. But the whole Something for the Girl with Everything.
Never turn your back on Mother Earth.
Amateur Hour in This Town, probably the most glam ones, I reckon, personally.
Do you have a single before This Town released here in the UK that bombed?
I think so. I think it came off Woofers and Tweeters Clothing, but I don't know what it was called. But they definitely...
You must have owned it at some time.
I don't think they did, in fact. Because it was on... it wasn't on Ireland, it was on Bearsville, and I definitely hadn't any Sparks singles on Bearsville.
I've got one single on. Was Todd Rundgren on?
Yeah, he was.
Bearsville. I Saw the Light.
Mm-hmm. But the whole, Russell Mel wearing the tiny little shorts and Dinky Diamond all glittered up and everything, they were very glam. And at the two, I'd probably say Amateur Hour is my favourite, but I do love This Town as well. Yeah. Anyway,
going strong now. Still critically acclaimed. And did they play Glastonbury? And people were saying the best performance.
I don't know if they played. I'll probably play Glastonbury as well.
Yeah, they. I'm sure that someone was interviewed and I said, the best one I saw there this year was Sparks. Yeah,
they did play Glastonbury. Yeah, because when I went over Natalie, she was trying to remember the name of this band that she thought was really good, and it took her about 2 days, and she remembered it was Sparks. Yeah.
Like in the older stuff, even older than Sparks, I obviously thought Cat Stevens was pretty good.
I didn't see him, unfortunately.
Oh, brilliant.
I saw Guns N' Roses, and I thought they were awful.
Yusuf Islam.
Right, next one, number 12 already. Alvin, my shoe. You have a story about this, I believe, about your mate buying it or something? Or every time
I remember being I was at school when this came out, like you weren't. And
so bloody was. Hang on, when did this come out? 73?
74.
74, no, I wasn't there. Okay, right.
It might have been 73. I've got Jealous Mind was number 1 in 74, so this must have been 73.
Yeah, I still wasn't at school. I left school in January 73.
I was around my mates in the evening and we were watching Top of the Pops, and this came on and his jaw dropped. He couldn't believe it. It's the most amazing thing he'd ever seen it. Alvin Stardust doing My Cuckoo, which was not him singing, it was Peter Shelley.
Yeah, you told me, yeah.
Singing it. He was just because Peter Shelley couldn't really do it, even though he appeared on Lift Off doing the song that's been lost.
Alvin sang on the later ones, though, didn't he?
Yeah. All the later ones. It's just this one, which is Peter Shelley. But he went on. Obviously, went on to the Buzzcocks.
Yeah.
Didn't he? And did.
Do you have a favourite album?
We don't actually think that, listeners. We don't actually think that's a joke.
It may be a joke, but I spent about 6 months thinking it was the same person. When the Buzzcocks came out, I thought, Peter Shelley's moved on, and then I suddenly realised it was a different Peter Shelley. Do you have a favourite Alvin single?
My Cuckoo's good. There is one I like by him.
There's one that reminds me of when we all went to Guildford camping.
Yeah.
Red Dress. That was on the radio when we were on the way down there all the time.
Red Dress, that's the one. That's it. Yeah. That's my favourite.
And I remember that was when you did the classic I'll fill the car up for you, and everyone died for cover because you didn't realise what you were doing. You were filling the car up with the back hanging out your mouth.
Back in the 70s.
Back in the 70s, yeah. Rock and roll, anything went.
And you weren't scared of anything, were you?
No, no.
Back then.
No. Yeah, I mean, right, the next one is debatable whether they should be so low, but I think they're so low because by their third album, and you're going to get it from what I say next, the lead singer had become a lounge lizard. But Roxy Music. First album, very glam, the way they were dressed, everything. Second album, I can't remember Pajama Armour on TV. It must have been on Top of the Pops, but I can't remember it.
Yeah.
But by the third album, Street Life and everything, he was in his tuxedo and he was doing his Brian Ferry dance, and you got a visitor.
Oh, hello. Can you see him?
Yeah.
On the screen. All right.
He's just ducked down off camera. Now he's back again. Hello, Doyle.
Yeah.
Roxy, great band.
His favourite song, of course, glam song is The Cat Crept In.
Indeed,
by Mott. Yeah.
That is one of the worst tracks you ever told, probably. But it's
well,
it's very.
It was appropriate.
Appropriate, yeah.
Yeah.
You're a big Roxy fan. First album or second album?
Never been asked to decide between those.
For me, it's the second album.
To me, they're a trilogy. The first three albums, Roxy Music, For Your Pleasure and Stranded.
Yeah.
You know, I never listened to another album after those three. I had Siren, a couple of good tracks, but not really into it. But the first three albums, I remember being so excited when Stranded came out. I read the review because still being at school and stuff, it took me a while to save up for an album. But I did buy this one when I was at school, and after reading the reviews about it and really wanting to hear some of those songs on there, and they really stood up and were great songs. So I see those albums as a trilogy. I'm probably
which album was All I Want Is You on? Was that the third album or fourth album?
I think that is probably on. Well, it's either on Stranded or it's on Siren. I haven't looked at it.
If I'm going just on the first two albums, I've always preferred the second album simply because I really like Button Pajama Armour. And
my cat's lying on the camera stand.
Yeah,
there might be some shake.
There was some shake just now, yeah. But what's that one where he talks about the blow-up doll?
Yeah.
And Every Dream Home or something.
Yeah.
That's a great song. Right. Which brings us into the all-important top 10, which theoretically should be most...
Harry's Glam Top 10.
Yeah, well, these should all sort of be more or less glam artists now because we're in the top 10. Number 10, a band we saw ourselves in 2013, Mott The Hoople.
Yeah. When did I... Oh, no, that's the second time I saw them.
I thought you had tickets and then they split up before you could see them. So I remember you...
I'm sorry, I'm talking about Mott The Hoople.
Oh, yeah, you did see him, didn't you? You saw him with Queen.
I'm joking. Saw him in 73 with Queen as
the
whole act.
But you were going to see him the third time. You were going to see him in 74 because I remember you coming around and knocking on my door saying, did I want to go and see Mott The Hoople? And I said, yeah. And then Mick Ronson joined, and next thing you know, they've split up. So we didn't go. But, you saw him with Queen, didn't you? Yeah. But, all the young dudes. I mean, Bowie song, it's classic glam song. I don't think I've ever brought a glam compilation that hasn't had all the young dudes on it. And it's one of the few Bowie songs that, he never released it as a single, but it's been on numerous albums, either live versions or studio outtake. He did a studio version of it when he made the Lad Insane, and his version doesn't come anywhere near Mott The Hoople's. It's just their version is just brilliant.
Yeah, despite all the clothes and everything, that was sort of a rock track, wasn't it? Rather than the later glam.
Yeah.
Which were, if that was glam, I think they out-glammed themselves with some of the later tracks.
Once they got people like Ariel Bender in, who was like just silver boots and God knows what else, they went to this, like, what was it, year and a half, 2 years?
Oh, for End Watts.
Yeah.
Didn't have any problem wearing, the platform boots, and capes and stuff.
They were glam the way they dressed. Songs of glam. I put these definitely squarely in the top 10.
Yeah, yet again, it's a crossover between trying to do old-fashioned rock and roll and cross it into what is glam. You've got Tell Him by Hello. You've got Showaddywaddy. A lot of bands who are doing Rubettes, all doing sort of slipping into rock and roll quite easily, but still being slightly covered by the glam thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, we'll look at Mott. I mean, they were one of Bowie's favourite bands, hence he gave them the single. But they've been going 3 albums and no success, and they were just a straightforward blues.
I've got all their singles as Mott The Hoople, none as Mott.
What did they ever come after that? Oh, the British Lions.
Yeah. Right. Do you have anything by them? You've got their album?
Ever had a record by the British Lions? I might have had the album Mott once upon a time, but if I did, I didn't play it. Next one's one of the all-time classic Top of the Pops performances, Mud. Tiger Feet with the roadies and everyone on Top of the Pops singing DLT and everything else. So,
I remember that, yeah.
I suppose, it's really weird because I've got that DVD I brought of like Mud's TV performances, and the first one on it is when they were on Pebble Mill at 1, and they were a club band. I mean, Les Gray was playing the trumpet, and they were all wearing striped shirts, and they were nothing like Mud. And then, Crazy, Hypnosis, would you consider them Glenn singles or not? I mean, they were Shin Chapman, so...
Yeah. I think it would... I mean, they do go into classic glam, don't they? Dynamite.
Yeah.
Tiger Feet. Cat Crept In.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But a lot of stuff which wasn't, it didn't take them long. Their real heart was in jazz and soul and stuff, and didn't take them long. The moment they moved to private stock, that was the music they really wanted to do, was Shake Me Down, was it?
Yeah, Lucy and Show Me You're a Woman. I really didn't like those, but then I was so used to the other Mud that I did, when I collected, I still collect glam, I suppose, but I just haven't bothered buying any of these donkey's years. But when I was really heavily buying glam, I couldn't decide where to cut bands off. So I was just like buying everything by the band. I even brought a copy of Run Around Sue by Mud on RCA, which was definitely not glam. It was interesting. Anyway, next one. Right, and that brings us on to number 8, which is the Glitter Band, which are definitely glam.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm trying to think now. Yeah, Angel Face, brilliant single. I loved Tears I Cried, and I've done it again. I've forgotten the name of the band from there. The Tears I Cried, and what's the other one from 1975? Goodbye, My Love. I don't know if you remember, we had a moment in Muppets the Disco in Kensington when they paid people like you and people like me, and we came up with a fantastic dance routine where we leaned on each other's shoulder, and then you leaned on my shoulder, and we were singing along to people like... Unsurprisingly, we didn't pull any girls that night.
Well, unsurprisingly, there's never anybody in Muppets apart from us.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we we got our nickname from.
Yeah.
Muppet. You Muppets.
But back to the Glitter Band. Unfortunately, they suffered from their ex-leader's what he did in the later years. I mean, obviously in the 70s, no one knew about it, so they had chart success and they had gigs. Yeah. But John Russell said,
you explained when we originally tried to do this that there was some Mike Leander and co weren't keen for him to have a solo career.
Oh no, they weren't. No, I forgot about that. Yeah, he thought there wasn't room in the market for both Gary Glitter and the Glitter Band. John Russell really pushed him because he thought Angel Face would be a hit. So Leander agreed, but wouldn't let the Glitter Band play on it, which really pissed Russell off because, like he said, that the Glitter Band were the Boston show band he'd been playing since 1964 or 65. He let them play on all their later records after it was a hit, but that one was session men. But as was said when we talked about it before, time is money in the studio, and they could get session men in to bang it out in 2 takes. Then,
because Mike Leander played drums.
Yeah.
Did he? Yeah. I know he's like Mike Chapman. He used to do almost full demos.
I mean, there's a story about him and them that we'll get onto a bit later with another artist. But great, can't even speak properly. Great glam band. You can't doubt what they wore, how they sounded, the Dig 2 drums sound, the stomping beats.
Saxophones, yeah. I saw them live, of course.
Yeah.
Back in 74.
Yeah.
Saw them in 74.
Were you wearing your glitter suit and platforms?
No, I don't. I did have some clogs. I didn't wear them too much. I was just threatening to hit people.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember your clogs. Yeah. I remember them being used as a weapon and also being hurled over a fence, and then you had to climb over and get them when you were very drunk. But
yeah. But it was the loudest gig I've ever been to. Louder than Kiss, louder than Lizzie. We've seen Slade, louder than Slade.
Yeah. Right, the Glitter Band, who were, well, maybe should argue be higher, but they're not. And the next one is Little Miss Rocker herself, Suzi Quatro. She had one single before this, and I can't remember what it's called, and I will put it up on the screen. But I remember reading a story that Mickey Mouse took her in the studio, brought in chat.
She had 2.
Did you? All right. Oh, right.
I know because they're both on my want list.
All right. But I remember I've got her first biography, Unzipped, and she's saying in it that she went in there. Chin Chapman came in and said that, this is the sound that's around at the moment. It's the big drum sound and this, that, and the other. And unsurprisingly, they were, according to her biography, they were allowed to play on their records. And she said that, the minute they finished whatever take it was, that Mickey Mouse said it was a number 1, and it was. And then they went on with 48 Crash and Devilgate Drive, Daytona Demon.
They must have been British session musicians, though.
Yeah.
I guess.
She was saying in there that they advertised, but Mickey Mouse got Len Tucky and the keyboard player Mickey Mouse got for her, and the drummer came and auditioned. So maybe Tucky and the other one were session men that came in or something. Yeah. But Suzi Quatro, even when glam was long finished and gone, I still quite like some of her later singles, like the one she did with Chris Norman, Stumbling In, and If You Can't Give Me Love, I like that. But as glam goes, she really, and a lot of people have cited her as opening the doors, because in 1973, being a girl in music, you didn't have a lot of sway. You got told what to do, what to wear, what to sing. And she sort of stood her ground on a lot of things. A couple of things they were going to put. I've got a bootleg by her playing the New York record plant, where she's playing for a load of New York record executives, American record executives, and she's playing Jailhouse Rock and something else. And someone over here at Rack wanted us to put out Jailhouse Rock as a single, and she point blank refused. She said it looked too contrived, her wearing the black leather jumpsuit, singing Jailhouse Rock.
Yeah.
So she got away in some things, and probably would I'd argue. I mean, I could be wrong, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But was she the only girl glam rocker?
No, there was. What's her name? It one of the glammiest singles out. Lift Off, Aisha.
Oh, Aisha, yeah. In fact, if it wasn't going to take so long, because I saw it yesterday, I've got her album here. I could actually hold the record up. We haven't done that yet. It's just here behind Slade somewhere. Keep talking. Talk about Aisha.
Yeah. Well, she had that single. I do own it. It's written for her by Roy Wood. I think she's probably seen at the time.
Yeah,
it's really, really, really glam. It's got the beat and everything. I'm not sure. I've not seen any videos for it, so I'm not sure if she dressed up in glam with coloured hair, because Roy was guiding her on makeup.
Well, she was the one of the backing singles on "Say My Baby Jive" on Top of the Pops at Lease, even if she wasn't in real on the record.
No, not in real. She's up on there, weren't she?
She's the one he picked up and threw over his shoulder at the end. No, I definitely saw it yesterday because I was thinking of actually making a post on Instagram about it, but I can't find it now, so I can't lift the record up. But yeah, you get so it's yeah. But I suppose she was the only one who actually had big hits, Suzi Quatro.
Yeah.
Which is a nice round segue into number 6, Wizzard. Obviously, Roy Wood, brilliant musician, played tons of different instruments. The Move, ELO. I mean, he's still going now with Roy Wood's Wizzo. But I saw an interview with him recently where he said that he disappoints the fans not on a nightly basis because he likes looking forward to the future. So he only plays new stuff. He refuses to play any Move songs or any Wizzard songs, which I think is a bit of a, not cheap, but if you're going to spend out however much to go and see someone.
Didn't Bowie do that for a time? He only played new stuff, and he made a conscious decision and an announcement that he was going to start playing some older stuff.
He announced in 1990 that he was never going to play any of his old stuff again because he was bored of it, and he did the Sound and Vision tour, which was meant to be the last time he played any of his old songs. But by 1994 or 5, when he was doing Outside, he'd already split it by doing half the set all new stuff and half the set old stuff, because that's what I was talking to you about when he made that cock up. He played his old stuff first and then played all his drum and bass stuff from Outside second, and everyone walked out. So he then started playing the new stuff first and the old stuff second, so they had to stay. And by the 2000s, he'd given up on it, and he just played mainly when Heathen came out. He was promoting Heathen, so he played songs of Heathen, but he still played a fair smattering. You see him on Glastonbury at 2000. He played at least half the set was old stuff. I think Bowie was one of those say it 1 minute and change your mind the next minute people.
Yeah.
But going back to Wizzard, he said in an interview that he wanted to stand out, and stand out he did. Great single, See My Baby Jive. Ballpark Incident was good as well. He seemed to have a very, 18-month, 2 years lifespan. He did some really good singles, and then they seem to...
Angel Fingers.
Yes, yeah. Angel Fingers was great. I didn't mind a few of his solo things that he did in the sort of 74ish period. Oh, What a Shame and that lot. But
Dear Alone.
I never liked Dear Alone, personally.
No, neither did I. I've got it, I think. But
Dear Alone was a real disappointment because it came out at the height of Wizzard, so you expected something like really glam, and you got this.
So, what do you think about ELO's first single? That was a bit glam, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
You think the sound was almost big Wizzard sound, weren't it?
Yeah, it was sort of like a cross between Wizzard and classical. Sorry, I'm being a real pain here. Sorry, excuse me. I'll come back in on that. I just realised my phone wasn't here, and if he called, I'd get yelled at if I didn't answer it. I'll go back to that. Yeah, I'd say that was quite glam. Yeah, it was sort of a cross between glam and classical because I don't think that I mean, there obviously had been lots of orchestration done on records in the 60s, but since I'd been buying records for the first time,
it wasn't the orchestration. It was the cellos, weren't it?
Yeah,
it's Beatles. Beatles had used that quite a lot on Sergeant Pepper and stuff. But the story was they bought 3 cheap cellos from China or from Russia, and the 3 of them were in the studio. Jeff Lynne, Roy Wood, and Bevan playing that riff, recording it, and the only one left standing at the end was Bevan. The other 2 couldn't keep playing the riff for all that time, and he was the last one playing.
It's a bit of a shame how it all ended up because I think it was Jeff Lynne took Bevan to court for using the name ELO, and but I suppose it's like.
It's money at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, but all you've got to do is stick your name in front of it. I mean, like, at the moment, you've got Don Powell's Slade going around, or sometimes he just calls it the Don Powell Band. You've got Dave Hill's Slade going around. I mean, how many bands? At one point, you had John Russell's Glitter Band, and you had the other bloke's Glitter Band. When bands split up, you just have to identify whose it is.
Newley's Gurney Slade.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in the 60s, they're probably the first one.
Yeah.
Because you could joke about his TV series, of which I have the theme tune on a single, because it's a top 20 hit.
The Gurney Slade will, I'm sorry I mention it now, because his name's going to come up later, but... It's all
available on YouTube, all the episodes.
Apparently in the early 60s, it was a massive influence on a certain glam rock who loved it to pieces, David Bowie. David Jones, as it was.
It was really, really strange.
Yeah, he loved it, apparently.
Strange. Yeah. But it's all about... You ever seen it?
Only one episode.
All right, yes. Oh, you know how it goes, and he's talking, but it's like he's in a different world walking around, ain't
yeah.
A clever thing for 1960.
Was, sort of breaking the fourth wall sort of thing, isn't it? Which is quite common now, but was never done then. Right, number 5 is the obviously the most controversial character on the list, Gary Glitter. I put him at number 5 because I think the 4 acts above him were better than him, and but he does deserve to be in the top 5, no matter what he did or didn't do. He was glam rock. I mean, he was he was everything about him: the sound, the look, the ridiculous staring eyes, and the everything was very, very much glam rock. And
what do you think about, probably a time to mention it, what do you think about the Joker film?
I think that it worked really, really well in that excerpt. It worked brilliantly. And I think you have to separate the music from the man, because
he sold the rights anyway. He wasn't earning.
Yeah, he sold the rights in the 90s, so he didn't make a penny out of the Joker. And as John Russell said on Facebook at the time, Mike Leander's widow was really hard up at the time. He'd made some bad investments, and she needed that money. And he said he needed that money. He was involved. It was him, Leander, and Glitter that played on Rock and Roll Part 1 and 2, doing all the stamping. Leander did the drumming, and they were the three that were getting the royalties from it. And he said he needed the money, and Leander's widow needed the money. And he said that Glitter wasn't getting any of the money. And I personally think that I don't care what you say, and I don't care. I might get shut down in flames in the comments for saying this, but in 1972, I remember, I was at school still, just about. In the summer of 72, everywhere I went, it was on the radio. If you went to the fairground, if you went to the shops, you heard Rock and Roll Part 2. I can't disassociate that from my life. If I hear Rock and Roll Part 2, I'm taken back to when I was, wherever it was, 15, 16 years old. And I can't help that. It's a feeling. And that song will always remind me of my youth. And I know what he did was awful, and he's been rightly punished for it, and he's in jail and everything else. And not all his records were great. I'm not a massive Gary Glitter fanatic. I loved a load of the glam stuff from Rock and Roll Part 1 and 2 up until about 74. But I thought some of the stuff he did after 74 was awful. I mean, that one he did, Love You All Night Long, where he dressed in a top hat and tails and Top of the Pops. One of the worst records I've ever heard. But he did a little group, a batch of singles that were glam, and I love glam, so they're always going to remind me of my youth. Your opinion?
I don't know. I don't think stuff should be written out of history.
Oh, no.
I think I'm a bit of a historian, not just music, other stuff, and like looking now back on stuff, and I stuff being recorded accurately, and stuff, and it was part of the time. There must be some people it upsets. I'm not stupid enough to think it doesn't.
Of course.
Some people, but there must be. Look.
But I mean, I'm glad they used it, because I'm glad that Leander's wife and Russell got the royalties, because they needed the money.
Oh, they did get royalties.
Yeah. There's a big outcry. Everyone was outcrying that Glitter was being made rich in prison from this film, but he wasn't getting a penny from it. Yes, I guess Gary didn't get any of the royalties, which was, I think, fair enough. And the people who deserved them did get them. In terms of where he is in my list, I think 5's fair, but I don't know if you agree with that. But he did some great glam rock singles, but there is always that shadow hanging over him.
I actually had him a teeny bit lower on my list. Oh, right.
Number
7 on my list, but yes.
As a quick,
I think there's a cigarette skin now between lots of them.
Oh yeah. Going back a quick step, viewers would never know from the professional way we do these things that we actually have to have breaks sometimes for various reasons, and there has been a break in between our last bit and this bit, and in that break,
this T-shirt's not very good now.
Yeah. In the last break, we in the last bit, you were talking about Aisha's single, and in between that, I found the album, which I can now actually hold a record up.
Oh, superb!
So Aisha's album. I did actually post this on Instagram a couple of days ago, and it's all cover versions, things like Yesterday Once More and Daydreamer, David Cassidy's one, and Rose Garden. In my opinion, not a great album. I listened to a bit of it, and she's a good singer, but they're not great covers. I use Daydreamer on Instagram, and it's I much prefer.
I think it was What company?
What,
Who is she with when that was done?
DJM.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll just shut up then.
All right.
I was going to say DJM seemed to have be a bit more serious about her being successful because obviously she did Elton John songs.
But I think this was really just the basic cashing on the TV program because the album's actually called Lift Off with Aisha, so it's obviously just trying to cash in on the TV program.
But it didn't lift off to the charts.
No, it didn't. What did surprise me is I looked on Wikipedia and looked at her discography.
No, it must be right then.
I know, but looking at her discography, she'd done a load of singles before the, from the 60s right through till 74. I didn't realise how many records she'd actually made.
Yeah.
She was quite prolific at trying to have a hit, but never managed to get one.
Mm.
Which leads me now to the all-important top four, which I'd argue, and I'd probably be wrong, but I'd argue that maybe 90% of glam fans would put these in a different order, maybe, but these four acts in their top four. You probably didn't. Number four, I put as Slade. I put them as four. They maybe should have been higher because they had loads of hits and loads of number ones, but they weren't as glam as, say, the Sweet and that lot in the way that they dressed. And I mean, Dave Hill was, but Noddy just had his hat, and Jim Lee basically just wore a
tartan trousers and a mirrored hat. That's
but when you look,
outrageous at the time.
But when you look at the way the Sweet dressed, they're sort of like, Steve Priest went way over the top, and even Andy Scott was covered in makeup, and so was Brian Connolly and Mick Tucker. They were more glam dressed. But I think it's a cigarette paper between the Sweet and Slade, and like you just said, and I stuck them at 5. Do you have I know that you're not a particularly big Slade fan now. We've discussed it in the past, but do you have a favourite Slade single?
Favourite Slade single, I think it's probably Take Me Back Home.
Yeah, the video.
Goodbye to Jane I'd liked a lot because that's the first. I think Mama, We're All Crazy Now was my first Slade single. The first Slade single I bought as a new single coming out, and I was looking forward to it, was Goodbye to Jane. Yeah. Mama, We're All Crazy Now was an old single.
Yeah.
But I bought because I just
I think the video to your favourite, Take Me Back Home, is great. That one with the girls.
Hilarious,
I love. I think Take Me Back Home. Maybe Mama, We're All Crazy Now. Because I remember watching that on Top of the Pop.
I think about that video. I'd really enjoy it, and it's really hard. The girls copying Slade and stuff. But I wonder how it'd go down now, whether it be criticised or. I think that's what you do with stuff now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a bit of fun. It's just a bit of fun.
In fact, you could argue, and this is going to really piss off some Queen fans, but you could argue that Queen ripped Slade off because all those girls were dressed like Slade, and in the Miracle video, they had all the kids dressed like Queen. It's a very tenuous one, but you could argue that I doubt very much that Slade came into Freddie's mind.
I'll be honest, when you've got a bit of money in doing videos, it's probably because of their looks and stuff, it's quite an obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
One video.
And the big difference was in 72, videos weren't a big thing. Slade were just recording a live performance.
I'd never seen that video until the last couple of years. You'd probably seen it before, but the first time I've seen it was just recently.
Probably in the last 4 or 5 years, yeah. It just seems a lot of Slade stuff seems to have popped up on the internet. As a last Slade comment, I believe that you're wholeheartedly behind me by saying that Squeeze Me, Please Me was a bloody awful single. It was just a come on, feel the noise rip-off.
It was just Let's Have More of a Song came straight in at number one.
Yeah.
And people must have liked it. I think it had the little bits in it, but the start and everything was awful.
Dave Hill's been quoted many times on artwork to their CD box that they did in interviews, saying that, in his opinion, they were always successful when a single, I mean, he'd say this because he was a guitarist, but had a guitar start, and they were always unsuccessful, as in didn't get number one if it had a piano start. But I think some of their piano starting songs, like, say, Every Day, and that.
How did it feel? I mean, take it back outside I was talking about glam when I was talking about my favourite Slade single. My favourite Slade single is How Does It Feel?
Yeah, it's a great song.
That's brilliant. Yeah. As a piano start, brings up memories of Slade in Flame.
I was going to say, for us, it's Slade in Flame, the Mean Machine, the whole thing. You've got lots of meaning to it.
Yeah, I found it on YouTube the other day.
Oh, what? The single?
Slade in Flame.
Oh, Slade in Flame,
film.
Right.
I started watching it, and then it was overdubbed in Russian.
Right.
So,
Slade.
Yeah.
Right, my number 3 is the cigarette paper, Sweet. I put them at number 4 originally, then I switched them around to number 3 because I thought they just looked more glam. I mean, Wig Wham Bam, Blockbuster. Was Blockbuster the one he dressed as Hitler on top of the box on Christmas Day? Steve Priest. I remember that causing a bit of a hoo-ha with the older generation who fought in the war. He was wearing a German uniform and a black moustache.
I remember the helmet was from.
It was the First World War.
I can't remember him having a moustache, but
it fell off halfway through the performance. I was watching it recently on just when we were talking about doing this, and about halfway through, it was Blockbuster, and halfway through, it suddenly starts hanging off his lip, and he starts laughing, and he just knocks it off. But he did say... I
thought you were saying Steve Priest fell off the stage.
Oh, no, Steve didn't fall off the stage, his moustache fell off.
Oh, right, okay, that's not something I would have noticed, obviously.
I'm actually really, really bored of Blockbuster now, because every single time you buy a glam or see a glam playlist made up on Spotify or buy a glam album, it's always got Blockbuster. I'd much prefer it if they had Hellraiser or Teenage Rampage or something like that. But Blockbuster's the go-to song.
We've said that, haven't we? About stuff we see in TV shows, the music in shows. Sometimes it's really good, but sometimes it's really lazy.
Oh, yeah, it's lazy. And it just gets to the fact where you overhear a song. I mean, I'm almost the same with Come On Feel the Noise. I mean, I'm bored of that because it's always played on all the compilations. And as with the Sweet, as with Slade, the Sweet have done better singles. I know it's not one of their best singles, but I actually quite like the 16s, and I'm trying to think. I actually like Alexander Graham Bell. I mean, not glam at all, but I quite liked it as a pop single. Anyway, which leads us to the top 2. Number 2 is one that I was going to put at number 1 because he's one of my favourite artists, Bowie. But realistically, I can't say that he was the number 1 glam artist. I mean, Starman was brilliant on top of the pops with that blue guitar and that hoo-ha he created by putting his arm around Mick Ronson's shoulder. I remember the Sun the next day went into like epilepsy, whatever you call it, epilepsy. What's the word? It begins. It's got.
Did your mum kick the TV screen in?
No, I don't think she was even.
She couldn't have reached it, could she?
no, she had headbutt it. But there was just such a hoo-ha that this bloke in makeup had put his arm around another bloke in makeup's shoulder. It was crazy, but it generated the publicity that Bowie needed. I mean, that's an iconic performance, the top of the pop star, man. John, I'm Only Dancing was a great single. Jean Genie was a great single.
But no, Glam had clearly been around.
Yeah. There are people that I've read it so many times in different YouTube videos and read it in YouTube, seen it in YouTube videos and read it, that everyone claims that Rebel Rebel was the last great or the last glam single. Agree or disagree?
I don't know really. I don't really think of that as a glam single.
No.
Yeah.
I think he'd moved on. His character by that time had moved on to Halloween Jack. He'd got the eye patch and he'd become Halloween Jack for 5 minutes before he became the Thin White Duke. He was no longer considering himself glam. I probably wasn't. No, it was a good single, brilliant single.
Oh, but, wonderful single, yeah.
But I don't think that or Diamond Dogs are glam singles. I think Bowie's tenure with glam was maybe up to Driving Saturday, or am I pushing it too far?
No, that's just what I was going to say. Driving Saturday, but it all goes back to what you classify as glam. I mean, Bowie was really more the look, the sound. I mean, Driving Saturday is a fantastic single.
He did a brilliant performance of it on Russell Harty, which I've got somewhere, and it's all over YouTube. And I've got that. I brought that collection of every single available Ziggy concert performance. I brought my son Bloke on YouTube, and 90% of them are probably unlistenable because they're all recorded with a little cassette recorder in the. But when he played Cleveland in America, some famous theatre, it was recorded for a radio broadcast, so it's crystal clear. And it was the first night he played Driving Saturday, and he joked with everyone to turn off their tape recorders because this was going to be his new song and his new single. And it was really good. It was slightly different from the finished version, and it had different lyrics, but it was really good to hear it in production, if you like, to what it was going to become. Yeah. But it was
he wrote it on the tour bus.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Yeah, apparently he was going through the desert, and there was loads of domes where they were growing things, and he just got this idea about the future and domes and everyone living in domes. It was
well, that's something he got wrong. Driving Saturday, it's an all drawn line Saturday.
Yeah. I saw, going totally away from glam, I watched a video the other day where apparently in 1900 they asked some really famous or well-known artists to draw drawings or paintings of what they thought 2000 would look like, and they showed them, and it was all people dressed in Victorian clothes with flying cars that had wings that flapped and all that business. It's impossible. You can't possibly say what life's going to look like in 100 years' time. It's things change at such a speed. Which
you could ask AI, they'd probably tell us.
Yeah. But would they get it right? Because 100 years is a long time. I mean, look at 75 when we were teenagers. Would we have ever imagined doing this in 1975, sitting in front of a screen and recording things to put out for people to watch and things like that? It's,
No. It's, so I was going to come out saying it would be a horror for other people thinking that we'd be doing this.
Yeah. You're probably right there.
If only they knew it back then.
Yeah, well, if I'm going to get my wording wrong here, but if it was like it was now back then, it would have been a whole different kettle of fish for the Mean Machine, because we would have been able to see how to play songs on YouTube, and we'd have been able to even put our own performances on YouTube and everything. It would have been a totally different
music thing. Out. We could have promoted ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And stuff, yeah.
And number one, which is fairly obvious, I suppose. We were talking about late.
You gave it away.
I know, but talking about late. You were talking just now about lazy people, just using Blockbuster. I mean, I suppose I could say I'm being lazy, T.Rex, but they have to be.
Top of my list as well. I don't think there's any argument who's doing it before.
We had that discussion.
Bowie.
We had that discussion a little while ago, and I looked it up online and read the interview with the makeup girl from BBC, and it's debatable. I mean, she said that Bolan came in, sat down, they were doing Hot Love, and he wanted to, make himself stand out a bit. His exact words, "Make me sparkle," and she put a load of glitter on his forehead and on his cheeks and everything. And that, according to all of these T.Rex fans, is the moment that started glam rock. Him coming on in glitter. I'm not sure it was. I mean, but he definitely was a pioneer of glam rock, and he was one of the first to try and get out as well. Because as you know, I collect old new music papers, and I've got a melody maker from 1973 with Bolan on the front saying, "Glam rock is dead." And then in the interview, he was always saying, "Man, there's a man that," and he was saying, "Man, the scene's over, and I'm getting out while I'm ahead of the game, and I'm this and I'm that." But did he in '73? Did he get out? I don't think he did. He did. What did he do in '73? Did the Groover? I can't remember any other singers he did from '73. But I don't know that he got out of glam rock in '73. But
he certainly started changing. Well, because that's about the time we said he started it off, but he was definitely fading towards the end. So I think '74 was. Definitely.
Well, '72 was his last number one, and I think I was reading that after '74 he never had and I might be wrong here. I was going to say never had another top 10 single, but
when did Jeepster come out?
'71.
'71. So it's around the same time as Hot Love. Was it before Hot Love or after?
Ah, you got me there. Yeah, so I remember that Visconti saying he was jumping up and down, and that made the bang, bang, banging. But I don't.
But that is an absolute glam single, particularly because of the beat and everything.
I'm 90% sure, and I'm now going to have to look it up while we're talking because it's going to annoy me otherwise that it came out before Hot Love. But hang on, 2 secs. No, I was totally wrong. Hot Love came out in '71, but it was followed by Get It On and Jeepster. So they were all '71, but Hot Love was 2 singles before. Hot Love was 2 singles before Jeepster. But like you say, Jeepster was really a real typical stump, stump, stump glam single. So, dear listeners, watchers, and whatever else you want to say, that was my top 20 glam singles, which might be interesting if you send me over your top 20 in the order. I think you might have done already, and I'll print it underneath so the listeners can see, watchers can see how different our. I forgot. You wanted a shoehorn.
I did send it to you on the WhatsApp.
You wanted a shoehorn in an act that you thought should be in there, and I didn't put in. So here's your opportunity.
Well, it's only. I think it was number 20 on my list, but
it was
Harley Quinne.
And your reasoning?
They're on a bell. For sound was no glamish. There's a rumour going around at the time that the singer was actually Gary Glitter.
Oh, right.
I've heard, so I think crept in, but it's very one of those, very borderline ones, and I've left some bigger ones off of my list, like Hooper and stuff that I explained why I left them off. But I think it's the only real difference between our 2 lists.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I just put them in down the bottom. There's probably a few other bands we've both
missed it.
Not included. I don't think we missed. I think our lists seeing that we came up with roughly the same 20 is pretty good.
Well, if anyone watches this and wishes to comment, and I hope, and please do, because we don't get enough comments, please comment down below who you think should have been in a Glam Rock top 20 that we've missed out, or someone who should have been higher. Maybe you think Bowie should be number one, or maybe you think Slade should be number one.
Perhaps think Harley Quinne should have been in your list and number one.
Yeah, indeed, it could have been. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified when we upload videos. We're going to be doing another one where I elbow mark out and do one of my videos where I've got 2 records, 2 copies of this record, which is a challenge going around the vinyl community. We do have a video we're planning on doing about our top 20 Beatles album tracks. But while we're preparing that, maybe next week I was thinking of maybe if we did a video, show and tell video again, because we haven't done one of those for ages. We'll be showing what we brought. So maybe do one of those. But until then,
I've had a interesting sort of new collection I've just started up, but I'll save.
You'll save for the video
for the next show, because I'm hoping one of the records will come through that's got an amazing cover, so that'll be.
We'll wait until that one comes through until we make the show.
Yeah.
I've brought a couple recently, but nowhere near enough. But I'm sure I can cobble together enough for a video, even if I cheat and do ones that I brought a little while ago. But until then,
I won't say much about it. But my part of that show will include a Kenneth McKellar EP.
Well, you always were. I mean, if I remember rightly, back in the 70s, when we used to go in pubs and that, didn't people used to mistake you for Kenneth McKellar?
Yeah, well, it's a kilt I was wearing, and the white fluffy shirt I was
Probably
wearing.
an inappropriate single to ask about people being dead, but is he still alive?
No, he died in 2000.
Oh, right.
73.
Who was it who died this week? Oh, it was Roger Whittaker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, rest in peace, Roger. I'm trying to think of Durham Town. What's that big hit he had in 75? Oh, you were beautiful.
Last Farewell.
Last Farewell, yeah.
Wasn't that one? Yeah.
My mother liked that, yeah.
Anyway. He had a few. I see that's a case in point. I think it would be not right for us to do a tribute show because we didn't really like him.
No,
he was a talented guy. Yeah. No, nothing about it. Don't want to talk to be speaking ill of the dead, but I think we'd be lying if we said we.
Oh yeah. I liked The Last Farewell, and Durham Town was okay, but I couldn't name another one of his records. And he was like.
I own all of his top 20 singles.
He was talented, but he wasn't our cup of tea. We weren't into that sort of thing.